The struggle that I have had because I had this big picture that got shattered, but I have a safe.
Friends, it's me, Meerab, and I welcome you to Starspill USA. It's the one place where we lift the polished curtain and let you see the raw, unedited truth behind the glimmer of reality television. Today, we step into a story that is not just about the end of a marriage, not even just about the collapse of a family, but about the shattering of an empire that had for years been marketed to millions as the ideal, an unconventional American dream. Kody Brown, once the assured patriarch of the infamous polygamous Brown clan, had built a life on control, charisma, and carefully orchestrated appearances. For more than a decade, his name had been synonymous with TLC's sister wives, the face of a family that had seemingly defied odds to stay united. But behind the walls of his Flagstaff home, the picture was different. Shadows of resentment stretched across the years. The warmth between spouses replaced by icy silences and quiet wounds. And on one ordinary morning, all of it began to unravel. The knock on Kody's front door was sharp. Too sharp for a neighborly hello, too precise for a casual delivery. He crossed the tiled hallway slowly, his mind preoccupied with a dozen trivial tasks. But when he swung the door open, the sight that met him instantly shifted the air in the room. A man stood there, middle-aged, expressionless, wearing a plain shirt and holding an envelope so thick it seemed to bulge at the sides. "Are you Kody Brown?" the man asked, voice flat as stone. "Yes," Kody replied, frowning. "You've been served," the man said, his tone neither hostile nor apologetic. And without another word, he turned and walked away down the path. For a moment, Kody stood frozen. The desert morning light spilled in through the doorway, painting long stripes across the wooden floor, but there was a heaviness in his chest that made it hard to breathe. He shut the door slowly, walked to the dining table, and sat down heavily, turning the envelope over in his hands. The weight of it felt unnatural, as though it carried something more than paper, something final. He tore the seal open. Inside, page after page of legal text stared back at him. At the very top, bold, letters announced, petition for full custody, Christine Brown versus Kody Brown. It took him several seconds to process the words. Christine, his ex-spiritual wife, the woman who had once laughed at his jokes, carried his children, and defended him in public, had taken their battle into the legal arena. The allegations leaped from the page: emotional abandonment, failure to provide consistent financial support, psychological harm to their youngest daughter. Truly. Kody's fingers tightened around the paper. His jaw flexed. Surely this couldn't be happening. Surely Christine wouldn't do this. But Christine had been preparing for this moment for months. Years earlier, Kody Brown was the nucleus of a sprawling family orbit, 4 wives, 18 children, and a television audience fascinated by the juggling act. There were moments, especially in the early days, when the laughter was genuine, when birthdays were shared, and when the dream of plural harmony seemed almost real. But for Christine, the warmth began to fade when Kody's attention turned almost exclusively to Robyn. It wasn't immediate. It crept in quietly, an extra evening spent at Robyn's, a phone call skipped, a holiday where he couldn't make it. Then came the pandemic, which became the perfect justification for Kody. To isolate himself further, he created rules that kept the wives apart under the guise of safety. But those rules seemed oddly flexible when it came to Robyn's household. Christine noticed the imbalance, as did Janelle and Mary, but she bore the brunt of the emotional neglect. The worst wounds weren't inflicted on her, though. They were on Truly. Birthdays missed without explanation. School events skipped. Even casual phone calls that dwindled to once a fortnight, then once a month, then sometimes not at all. And then came the night that changed everything. Truly had dressed up that evening for a promised video call with her dad. She'd even made a drawing for him, a simple crayon picture of her and Kody standing side by side. The iPad was propped up on the coffee table, the drawing in her lap. Christine busied herself in the kitchen, keeping one ear on the living room. 10 minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. Still no call? Christine finally walked in to find Truly curled on the sofa, the drawing now creased at the edges. Her eyes red, though she tried to hide it. Maybe he forgot again, she murmured, almost as if to herself. Christine's heart sank so deeply she thought it might never rise again. That moment, seeing her daughter holding back tears for a father who wasn't coming, was the breaking point. She knelt beside Truly, pulled her close, and whispered, "I'm not letting him hurt you like this anymore." The decision that followed wasn't made in a burst of anger, but in a steady, cold clarity. Christine began gathering evidence, not to punish, but to protect. Phone records of missed calls, screenshots of last-minute cancellations, receipts for medical bills she had paid alone, therapy notes from Truly's counselor recording feelings of abandonment, statements from teachers noting changes in Truly's schoolwork when Kody failed to visit. She met with a family law solicitor in Flagstaff, laying out the entire story. The solicitor listened carefully, then said, "Christine, you have a strong case. And more importantly, you have every right to fight for your daughter's stability." For the first time in years, Christine felt the faint hum of control returning to her life. By May 2025, her petition was filed, case number CB251027. In Coconino County Superior Court, she asked for full legal and physical custody, supervised visitation for Kody until he could demonstrate consistent involvement, monthly child support, and the authority to make all major decisions for Truly. When the documents landed in Kody's hands, his initial shock curdled into fury. Robyn arrived minutes after his panicked call, flipping through the papers with widening eyes. "She can't do this," Kody said, voice sharp. "She already has," Robyn replied quietly. The news leaked online within 24 hours. Headlines: Exploded. Christine Brown sues Kody Brown for full custody. Social media lit up with fans overwhelmingly siding with Christine. Kody said nothing publicly, but behind the scenes he was frantically on the phone with his legal team, trying to build a defense. He reached out to Christine. No answer. Called Janelle. She didn't pick up. The isolation was palpable. The patriarch who once commanded a household of 4 wives was now a man alone, facing a fight he could not charm his way out of. The courtroom showdown the morning of the hearing. The air inside the courthouse was heavy with anticipation. Reporters whispered at the back, their cameras ready. Curious members of the public, some fans of the show, had queued early to secure seats. The oak-paneled walls seemed to hold their breath. Kody entered first, flanked by his lawyers, his face set in an expression that aimed for confidence but couldn't hide the tension in his jaw. Moments later, Christine walked in, calm, poised, her lawyer carrying a thick binder of documents. She didn't look at Kody as she took her seat. The judge entered, and the room rose in unison. Proceedings began swiftly. Christine's solicitor spoke first, laying out the case in precise, unflinching terms. Emotional neglect, inconsistent presence, financial gaps, and an environment not in the child's best interest. They presented text messages Kody had ignored, medical updates left unanswered, birthdays missed without explanation. Gasps rippled through the room as these private exchanges became public evidence. Kody's lawyer countered, arguing that he had made every reasonable attempt to be present. But the defense felt hollow against the sheer volume of documented neglect. Then Christine took the stand. Her voice was steady, even when describing nights spent comforting a crying child who wondered why her father didn't want to see her. When Kody's lawyer tried to suggest her smiling social media posts showed there was no real distress, she shot back, "Smiling for a camera doesn't mean my child isn't hurting." The judge listened intently, reviewing not only the testimony, but also counselor reports, school records, and financial statements. His verdict was clear: full legal and physical custody to Christine, with Kody limited to supervised visitation until further assessment. The outcome sent a quiet shock through the room. Christine exhaled a breath she'd been holding for years. Janelle, seated behind her, offered a small, proud nod. Robyn, several rows back, lowered her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. Outside, the press surged forward. Christine, holding Truly's hand, spoke only one sentence. "I did what any mother would do to protect her child." Within hours, the quote went viral. Kody left in silence, his face thunderous. Online, even his supporters began to falter, questioning the man they had defended for years. That night, Christine returned home to a small celebration. Balloons, cake, the warm embrace of family. For her, the victory wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about safety, about reclaiming peace. She tucked Truly into bed, glanced out the window into the cool desert night, and whispered a prayer of thanks. The chapter with Kody was over, and the next one would be hers to write, without fear, without control, and without living in anyone's shadow.